the mail never stops.
Here comes the mailman.
Mail time.
Mail time. Mail time. Mail time.
The mail's here.
When you control the mail, you control information.
Hello,
Newman.
Hello, Newman.
If there's something strange in your league, who you gonna call?
Oh, you found it. We're back. The show is back. The Sleeper Wire Mailsack is back on the air. Welcome back, Sleepers. It's been a long time since we've chatted with you on the phone lines and answered your questions for everything. We love doing these live shows, and this is the first one of the season so far, so we're going to take your questions tonight on the Sleeper Wire Mailsack. It's going to be a regular thing. It's the first time you tuned in. Every Wednesday, sometimes at 8 o'clock, maybe sometimes a little earlier, we'll be on live, and we'll take all your questions for start-sit stuff, trade advice, waiver stuff. But tonight, I take it we're probably going to have a lot of draft questions, maybe some Dynasty questions, and here's how it's going to work. If you guys want to get into the show immediately, while you're listening right now and jump the line and ask your question first, call this number, 256-567-5337, 256-56-SLEEP. That'll get you right on the air, and we'll talk to you live. Otherwise, you can go to the Sleeper app, find the Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football channel on there, join it, ask your questions there. You can go to the Facebook group, Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football Club, or you can go to the website, sleeperwire.com. There's a form on there. You can send questions in. We probably won't get to those tonight because I'm not going to check the email. But if you're listening on Mixler, too, you can do the Mixler chat. So there's a million ways to reach us. Again, the phone number to reach us immediately, 256-56-SLEEP, 256-567-5337. We got Lucas, we got Dirty Jobs, and we got Max on the show today.
Okay, so first up, first question of the season. Let's make it a good one. We have Louis Banks here wanting to know if he should take who he should take with the 4th overall pick. His options are going to be Hopkins, Adams, Johnson, or Zeke in PPR. And I personally love all of these guys, but Dirty Jobs, let me hear who you would go with first.
Man, I can't grab Zeke. I can't grab him right now. I got to hear more. I just am so worried about him even playing football this year. I feel like I'm going to stick with the solid. I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay, that's a safe pick, and I love Hopkins. Max, what would you go here?
I'm kind of torn. I definitely agree. Don't touch Zeke because with the contract issues, he could pull a bell. Who knows? That being said, I don't like Adams as a first-round value. I could see him high second. So it's Hopkins or David Johnson. Johnson had a really let-down year last year, but I'd probably still go Johnson on the sole fact that running backs are few and far in between, and you can plug and play wide receivers.
So you're going to have me and Max's first major disagreement of the season. In a PPR, Adams is absolutely a first-round value. Absolutely a first-round value in PPR.
I thought you were about to get mad at me for Hopkins, and I was like, guy, it's not.
No. Hopkins, love Hopkins. But Adams is absolutely a first-round value. He should go first-round in every PPR draft in a 12-man. Absolutely.
First-round tail end. I think it depends on the size of your league. If you're in a 14-team league, sure. 12, maybe. That being said, it's not Hopkins I'm worried about. It's Aaron Rodgers and the whole squad. I don't think Green Bay looks that great this year. Hopkins will be the number one target.
You mean Adams?
Sorry. Adams will be Hopkins is always the number one target. Adams will be the number one target, but Hopkins is better, in my opinion. And running backs, especially 3-down backs, are more of a rarity now, especially ones who can catch the ball. So David Johnson, if he remains healthy in Arizona, is going to do better under Murray, the new quarterback.
Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, I still have issues there because he's probably going to see a lot of targets, so he's likely going to do better than last year. The offensive line there is so bad. It is so terrible, and I'm still not sure that Cliff Kingsbury really knows what he's doing. And I'm going to be this guy, and I got burnt by Bell in a league last year. I'm going Zeke. I think Zeke is absolutely going to play. He has 2 years left on his deal. why would you not play? Like, I understand you want a new deal. They're going to reach some sort of an agreement here. I don't think that he's going to end up being the highest paid running back like he wants. I think that they will end up settling for something less than that. But the man is going to get paid, and he is going to play. He has 2 years left. He's not sitting out. Like, that's
As
not
much
happening.
as I agree with you, I really think the Dallas should just cut Prescott because he's not worth $40 million. That being said, Zeke probably wants what Bell wanted. A big money, long-term contract. I personally would give it to Zeke because you want to lock him down the rest of his career. That being said, if he held out, I would not be shocked. I don't think anyone would be shocked. Second-round value, just out of fear.
I just don't think that ends up happening. But I think the consensus here is if you want the upside and you're thinking like me, Zeke is a league winner. I want Zeke on my team. So if he falls to me at anywhere the 4th through the 8th, I'm taking him in whatever leagues that I'm in. I don't feel like he's going to fall that far. But if you want the safe pick, it's hard to go wrong with DeAndre Hopkins, who has a very, very high likelihood of finishing the number 1 overall wide receiver, especially in PPR. Moving on to the next.
Hey, guys. Hold on. Rewind. What?
For you.
Can I make one more point about the first question?
No,
it's not first round value. It's 4th overall pick. Would you risk the 4th overall pick on Zeke?
Yes.
Wild.
Yes. He's a league winner. And I think he's going to play.
Okay.
So if you don't think he's going to play, then obviously you should not take him there. I believe he's going to play, and since I believe he's going to play, to me it's a no-brainer at the number 4.
I think they're all good picks, and I'd take David Johnson or Hopkins.
Yeah, I just think there's too many. I do like Johnson, but it does worry me. I was higher on him until I saw the second preseason game, and that offensive line. That hurt me. That hurt me a lot.
Yeah, Johnson to me is more of he's more of the guy that I'm thinking is like the early second. Like, I like David Johnson, trust me, but I don't think I grab him in the first. Everybody else on this list, I don't.
Yeah. See, and what's really David Johnson, I'm kind of in the middle between you guys. I was higher on him, but in PPR, I do think he's going to catch a lot of balls, but I did move him a little bit. So I have him at like 7 or 8, and I've basically moved a couple of wide receivers ahead of him that I think are just going to see guaranteed targets.
Guys, I got TJ on the line. I think I want to try this.
Okay.
TJ from San Diego, you there?
Hello?
TJ.
Yeah.
All right. I hear voices.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. What's going on, man?
Hey, I had a quick question for you guys. I'm in a franchise one keeper league. So basically the one keeper you keep, you lose that round in the draft.
Okay.
But they're switching up a bunch of things. One, instead of 18 rounds, we're going to 15. And then we only have a max of 35 waiver pickups throughout the whole year.
Okay.
So I just wanted to see how that would change your draft strategy.
So you only have that, is that waiver and free agency or just waivers? So like you can only pick up
both
5 players.
waiver, free agency,
Okay.
So only 35 ads. Yeah.
and trade.
And trades. So 35 individual transactions. Now, honestly, 35 is still quite a bit. So maybe you just don't do just be a little more cognizant of what you're doing and don't do a ton of, it sounds like all they're really trying to do is prevent people from just adding and dropping a ton to use that as a strategy to try to prevent people from picking up other players. And when you were talking about your one keeper, is that where you drafted them the previous round, or you're allowed to keep one keeper at whatever their current whatever this year's ADP is?
So whatever you drafted at the previous draft, you get to keep them up to 2 years.
Okay.
Oh,
that
could be huge.
So
what do you
what
think about keeping?
Yeah, what are your keepers? Give us a few of like the big
So-
names that you have.
So the keeper I'm going to keep, because I drafted Alvin Kamara 2 years ago in the 15th round.
Yeah,
So I'm just going to keep him so I can, no brainer, right? But usually you never know, because nobody really announces what their keepers are until the draft too. So you don't really get any pre-draft strategy because you don't know your place until the draft, and you don't know who every team's keeping until the draft.
Okay, so one suggestion I might make, what I do in my home league, is we actually set that keepers have to be announced 2 weeks prior to whenever our draft was set. So ours were due last Saturday at 11:59. So you might do that just so it gives people a little bit of time to do research. Now, what was your other question? Just the fact that you're going down from 18 rounds to a 15-round draft, and you have limited waiver transactions.
That, and because obviously we all had deep benches before. It was 18 rounds, so we had 9 players on the bench. So I'm going from that to 6 players on the bench. So I was thinking, how should I? Because usually I draft in that league. I used to draft like 5 running backs, 5 wide receivers, maybe 1 or 2 tight ends, and then usually get my quarterback late. I was wondering, how should I change my draft strategy? Should I just draft like 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers, and maybe double up on quarterbacks, or how should I change my draft strategy based on what I previously used to do?
So, Lucas, do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yeah, let me say the one thing I would say is what this will mean is there will be more quarterbacks available on free agency, so less people will have 2. So if it were me, I would probably only roster 1 and then still keep the wide receiver running backs deep. And then if you need to pull a quarterback, they should be available. But Max, go ahead.
I was going to say something similar. You just have to plan ahead. Your defense and your kicker, they're bye weeks. That's it. That's what you're going to rotate out. So that's 2 bench spots you don't have to worry about. Your running backs, I would try to get your 2 running backs, have your flex be a running back off the jump. So you have 3 running backs always in rotation. And then draft. Pardon?
Oh, go ahead. I just heard it.
Oh, yeah. So I'd have 3 running backs just in my starting lineup just for a bye week. I could pull one of my starters, put the flex guy in the starting role, and then I tried to have 3 running backs on my bench, 2 wide receivers, and then an extra tight end if you have a higher end tight end. Like if you have a Hunter Henry or you manage to get Kittle and you don't want to drop him, I'd have 2 extra wide receivers, 3 extra running backs, and that one last spot could either be an extra QB if you have a really good QB and you don't want to lose him, or like I said, an extra tight end, or maybe even an extra receiver if you're not really if you don't have your heart set in your quarterback or current tight end. Just that one extra spot in your bench for the rotational.
Dirty Mike, you have anything you want to jump in here and say? Do we still have Dirty Jobs in here?
Dirty Mike said he'd be back in 2 minutes. He had to run and grab something, and he's very sorry.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so just kind of expanding on that just a little bit more, you're probably okay to only have one QB and 1 tight end on your team. I think that this year specifically, we're going to have some tight ends that are not being drafted that are going to end up getting picked up very soon. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Take your tight end and then wait and see. Players like Jordan Reed, Swaim, Lacoste, there's some guys that are deep. Darren Waller is a guy I would keep my eye on. The dude is 6'6", and he has been the standout in camp for the Raiders. He could very well end up being a top 6 tight end this year. So I would just be on the look for that. Don't worry about drafting 2 of them. Just take 1 and load up. Get your starters, and then take some shots in the draft on high upside running backs and wide receivers that you can flip out relatively early in the season if you need to.
Okay. All right, thanks. I appreciate you guys.
Yep. Good luck, TJ.
Have a good one, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much for calling in there. Guys, let me catch up here. So the phone lines are open. We're going to give that number out. We got it fixed. 256-56-SLEEP. I know it sounds like I'm calling from the moon, but I fixed it. 256-567-5337. And where were we at in the mail sack? We got the first one done, right? Lily Banks?
That's it. I pulled a hoos. We started debating.
All right. So I'll let that go. If I get another call, 256-56-SLEEP, I'll interrupt and put them on. Okay, it's your turn to talk.
That's your cue.
All right, Cabana Joe with a keeper question. What up, Mike? All right, so keeper question. I'm a 1-point PPR league. Which 2 should I keep? Deshaun Watson, Tevin Coleman, Amari Cooper, or Kieran Johnson?
Had myself
Dirty
muted
job.
there. Go ahead, Dirty.
I would say, man, not knowing where you're keeping these guys or how it works, I don't think Deshaun Watson, like I'm going to fade away from the quarterback. I feel like quarterback's value you can get later. And I've got to avoid Tevin Coleman too. I like San Francisco. I really like their opportunity, but there's a few red flags. So I feel like I'm keeping Cooper and Johnson here.
I'm the same. I'm keeping those two. They're the two that are the highest on my board. Tevin Coleman, this could very easily be a 50-50 split with Breida, and they have some depth on that team at running back. So who knows what his usage is really going to be. Max, do you disagree there?
Yeah. See, I don't. I just can't remember. Or not can't remember. I can't. Saquon's a safe choice. I don't like Detroit running backs, much like how I don't like the Redskins running backs. So it's just an issue. I'd probably go with Amari Cooper.
Well, he gets to pick two here, so he would be keeping.
Oh, two? Oh, yeah. I read the question. I should know that. So yeah, I completely agree. Then Cooper and Johnson.
And I think that expectations need to be kind of halted a little bit on carry on. There's people that think he's going to end up top 5, top 6 as a running back. I think that his ceiling is not as high as a lot of other players, but they are talking about wanting to get plenty of usage in for him, and he is super talented. I do like the talent, but like Max said, the team as a whole there's still a lot of questions going into the second year with the new coach. That O-line is not great. He's also Carry-on's also coming back from an injury. He was super productive before that, but we do need to be cognizant and kind of limit our expectations. Rip Swim Sack Mac wants to know Jalen Richard, stash or drop? And let's assume that this is a PPR league, Max. Do you think Josh Jacobs is going to be a true 3-down guy and that he's going to eat in and that we're going to see a significant drop off from what Jalen Richard saw last year in the passing down work for the Raiders, or do you think that he'll still have a role?
He'll have a role. There's potential for both of these guys. I drop both personally. Oakland has there's a few teams that have absolutely no loyalty to the running backs. Redskins, Oakland, and Detroit. I don't like owning running backs on any of those teams. And Robinson's the number 4 guy. I don't like either of them. I'd probably drop both and look for something better on the wire. Dirty Jobs?
Not knowing what kind of league you're in, because it seems like this might be like something like Deep Dynasty. When we're talking about these two guys right here. So if we're talking Dynasty, man, I really feel like these guys are both stashes to me. I think Jalen Richard, that guy was getting pretty involved last year, and I think that he might actually be on the field a little bit more than people are going to give him credit for. So I'm actually leaning on stash for him. Demarcus Robinson, I'm not a big Sammy Watkins guy, and I really don't foresee Sammy Watkins staying healthy. I feel like Demarcus Robinson fills right in that void. And to be the number 2 to Tyreek Hill, I really like that opportunity. Maybe not necessarily stash him, but man, you're going to hate it when Sammy Watkins goes down and this guy starts getting lights out.
Who's the rookie that just shined on that team?
Which one's that?
The rookie wide receiver for the Chiefs. Insanely fast. He's already bumped up on the depth chart above Robinson. So Robinson is listed as number 4 right now, or that's the speculation.
Are you talking about Pringle?
Is it Pringle? I can't remember his name. Too many rookies.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna find his name and then I will counter your argument.
Well, Pringle was one that I went ahead and stashed in a deep dynasty, but this was before the news of Tyreek Hill came out. So it's kind of I'm a little off of that now.
Looks like I'm looking at it right now and it says Demarcus Robinson is 2nd on the depth chart. Just throwing that out there.
Cody Thompson from Toledo? No.
I'm not in Max's head, so I'm not sure which one it was, but he's going to look that up and get back to us. For now, we're going to go on to the next question from Cohen Crazy. He says, which Rams wide receiver would you take first at the 3-4 turn in a 12-man half-point PPR league? For me, it's Cooks in a half-point. I know he got less targets than Woods. Woods would be PPR for me, but Cooks is the guy that's going to get you 1,000 yards and doesn't need to see as many targets to do it. Dirty Jobs, who would you take here? Cooper, Cup, Cooks,
Yeah.
or Woods?
Cup for me. Cooper Cup. Like, I like Cooper Cup. I feel like even when he wasn't on the field, he was getting looked at by Jared Goff. I mean, he just wants to throw it to Cooper Cup. So for me, it's Cooper Cup all day, not even close.
So you're not worried at all about a possible setback that could happen from the ACL tear that happened in the middle of last season?
No, I'm not too worried about it. Cooper Cup's a trooper.
Okay. The one thing, I'm still going to try to make my point with Cooks in a half-point PPR. This guy, it didn't matter which team he was on. I know the other two, he had really great quarterbacks, but whether he was on the Saints or the Patriots, didn't matter the system, learn a new system. The guy's still putting up 1,000 yards. I think that he's a pretty safe guy to get there. Stay Frosty 88 says, is Kareem Hunt valuable to keep on my bench?
Hey, can I guess I wasn't going to answer that last question. That being said, the wide receiver I was thinking of was Mecole Hardman. And I'm reading on NFL.com, or Rotoball, rather, that, he's listed, Demarcus Robinson is listed as the number 4 receiver on the depth chart for week 1. Is speculated to be lined up as the number 4 receiver.
Well, I think that we'll get more information on that as we really this weekend with week 3 of the preseason is kind of where we get every
his
real
first 2
nugget.
weeks. First 2 weeks, 1 pass for 6 yards. So
yeah, I wouldn't read too much. What I want to see is what we see with Mahomes, who Mahomes connects with this week, and I don't want to put too much stock in that, but that's really where we're going to get the most information that we can is this week, and seeing who Mahomes is looking at, and we know that he's going to spread the ball around quite a bit. Back to this question here. Stay Frosty 88 wants to know if Kareem Hunt is valuable to keep on his bench. Dirty Jobs, what were you saying?
I do think so. I think Kareem Hunt's like that next level talent. He's going to sit his suspension, and I think he'll come back out swinging.
So the earliest that we're going to see him, and he's not allowed to practice with the team during his suspension. So chances are he's not coming out swinging in week 10, not having played with the team the entire season. So by the time he's really into game shape, we're thinking it's going to be week 12.
Perfect.
And
that's championship season, Lucas.
Yes, but if he comes back and Chubb has been absolutely dominating, are they really how much work is Hunt really going to get? So is it going to be worth taking up that bench spot all season long to have the possibility of Kareem Hunt coming back and getting, what's optimistic, 30% of the work, 40% of the work? I mean, I don't know that that's really going to be league winning, and you're costing yourself that valuable bench spot. And if you have only 5 or 6 bench spots throughout the season and you're having to rotate different players and you don't really want to drop, I think that's, unless you have a deep bench, for me, I'm staying away from Hunt personally because I like to use those bench spots to rotate players and take shots at players. Max, you want to be our tiebreaker here? Would you use a bench spot and take Kareem Hunt and hold him all year?
no. That being said, I also wouldn't draft Chubb because I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to take long to start. I think week 9. There's no way the Browns don't have someone associated with their offense, like their team, their offense, currently training Kareem Hunt right now.
Well, it's not about training. It's about getting reps with your team. And what I'm saying is that he's suspended for 8 weeks, and they have their bye in there also. So week 10 is the earliest that he can come back and start practicing and playing with the team. They're not going to let him just come in, especially if Chubb is doing well. He's not going to come back in real game form. And what I mean by that is not just that he's in shape.
It's Kareem Hunt. He's a top 5 running back, almost without any argument in the NFL. If there's going to be a running back to step in week 1 and get the work, it could be him. And yeah, do I think Chubb's good? Yeah, I wouldn't have Kareem Hunt. I'm saying I wouldn't have him. I wouldn't hold him. But that being said, I also wouldn't look at any Browns running back right now because God knows what'll happen.
Okay, so I'm in complete disagreement with Max. Chubb is someone you absolutely want on your team. The Browns are going to be a very high-powered offense, and Chubb is going to be a monster. Chances are greater than not that Hunt will, once he comes back, he will not take enough work from Chubb to matter. If Chubb is performing all season long, we're talking 3 to 4 months from now is when Kareem Hunt is allowed to be practicing with the team. He's going to have to pick everything up. He hasn't got to play in games with the Browns. He was suspended. So he doesn't know this system yet. He's not practicing with the ones. He doesn't know their blocking schemes. It's going to take time for him to get there. And if they are winning with Chubb, they're going to continue doing that, and they're going to work Hunt back in slowly. There's just no way to do it any other way. There's no reason to do it any other way than that, in my opinion. Next, what do we have next? I think we skipped Neely 89. What changes do you make in strategy in a 10 versus 12 team league? QB tight end earlier than normal, also a 3 wide receiver league. Max, you want to take this one first?
Sure. All right. I hate commissioner questions, personally.
I think it's not a commissioner one, right? Or am I reading this wrong? What changes do you make in strategy in a 10 versus a 12-man league? So if you're in a 10-man league versus a 12-man league, what differences in strategy would you take?
I read it wrong. That's my bad. The 10-man league, I always draft, like, I'm running back heavy. If you guys listen to the show in the past and you heard me before, I love running backs. They're a hot commodity. There aren't a lot of them. So in a 10-team league, my first 2 picks would be running back. And then third round, I'd want a good receiver. That's when I'd start going, like, trying to fill up the rest of my roster. In a 12-team league, I'd go the first 3 rounds running back, personally. Tight end and QB, I'd honestly wait on both. Because I feel like unless you're going to spend the cash to get one of the upper echelons, it's just not worth it.
Dirty Jobs, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really not too much of a variance for me. I like to kind of keep it pretty tight on everything I do. It just kind of depends on how the draft falls to me. But I typically won't catch a quarterback or a tight end awful early. Now, tight ends, third round, if we're talking Kittle, if we're talking our big guys, I might be prone to hop on them right there. But as far as anything else, I mean, it's just, I try to keep it almost generalized. I'm in a lot of leagues, so I like to try to keep it pretty tight as far as they go, so I can kind of focus on the same players across the board. So I try to keep it pretty much the same myself.
Now, I'm someone that uses a tier-based system when I'm drafting. I'm generally going to draft best player available. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at my roster. I'm looking at what starting spots are filled. I'm looking at what players are available that I'm going to use every single week that are going to get me the most points. At the end of the week, you want to have the most points. That's how you win, right? So when you're drafting, you're taking the best player available. And in 3 wide receiver leagues, you're obviously going to skew that a little bit because the wide receivers become more important because you can play 3 of them. So I do like taking running backs early, but if I'm having to reach for a running back that I don't like as much as a wide receiver that is there, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself into making myself take a running back when there's a better talent in another position that I'm still going to be using every single week. Now, with the quarterbacks and the tight ends, in a 10-team league, there is an argument out there for people to take an elite quarterback because they feel like, okay, it's in a 10, but there's really just not a whole lot of discrepancy unless you're getting one of these guys that's an outlier, but it's tough to predict who those guys are going to be. Last year is Mahomes and you got him in the 14th round. So it really didn't do you much good to take your QB early. There's a smaller range of outcomes for what the quarterbacks are likely to produce. So if it's me, I'm taking those skill position players. Now I might take a tight end slightly earlier, but it's only if it's one I really believe is going to produce. I wouldn't get too worried and too caught up in it. Take the best player available. Any rebuttal to that, guys?
Now, yeah, really quick. So my third round strategy with a running back, like I said, I know I am running back heavy, and that hasn't really been a flaw for me because I usually end up being able to trade one away and get the receivers I want or may need. That being said, first 2 rounds, you manage to get, let's say, Melvin Gordon's contract's figured out by then, but you get Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon. You have 2 solid running backs. Third round rolls around. Would you take Marlon Mack or Latavius Murray over Woods, even though you don't need the running back?
No, because I don't believe in either of those guys personally. If Chris Carson or David Montgomery were there, then yes, because I think both of those guys have a very realistic shot to finish somewhere in the running back 4 to 9 range. So it would just depend on which guys were there. But if it were, I'm not a Henry man, I'm not a Mac guy. Whoever else you said, I think that Fournette probably has a bigger year than what he's given credit for. I think he's probably a value.
Oh yeah, I think so as well.
Yep, but that's kind of the range in what I would do there. It really just depends on who it would be. But let's say Thielen was there, right? Instead of you saying Woods, let's say that Thielen was there or Mac or something. I put Thielen in a higher wide receiver tier, or Keenan Allen or T.Y. Hilton, assuming that Andrew Luck's cap ends up, that he ends up playing the majority of the season.
Well, I don't think Thielen's going to be a third-round pick, but I'm just saying, for me, there's always those slot receivers that turn into being studs for you. So and this also depends on PPR or not, because you're going to need touchdowns and that kind of thing. I just feel like running backs are such a slim or small quantity, so I want that resource. That's just me personally. Like I said, yeah, you should go best ball. Who's there? Who has the highest ADP? Who do you think is going to be your best return? Because, don't play it dumb, play it smart. That being said, in a 12-team league, I genuinely think there's going to be less depth at running back. You're going to want to secure that, especially when every team has 4 receivers or 3, whatever you want to say. Not every team has one superior running back.
And we're having some messages fly in right now. We have some guys that think that we should be taking one of the top 3 tight ends. And there's definitely an argument to be made because, some people think that there is a significant drop-off. And what I think is that I don't think Kittle finishes as a top 3 tight end. I think that Jimmy
You're
Garoppolo,
out of your mind.
He looks like he's struggling. He did not perform that well when it was him and Garoppolo. The talent is there for Kittle, but I'm just not sure that they're going to put it together this year. I have major questions with the 49ers. I think that they're going to be a bottom 6 team this year. I'm not happy
think Nick Mullins can start.
I love Nick Mullins, but that's not going to happen. They're going to work their way back through Jimmy. That's their guy. That's the guy that they want. I think that team's going to have trouble. And unless Kittle is breaking away long touchdowns again, I don't think that he's worth a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. It's not going to happen. It's fantasy football. Anything can happen. I'm putting my foot down and saying that is not going to happen. O.J. Howard is a monster. I think Hunter Henry could be a beast. These are some obvious guys. And I also think that there's some of these tight ends. What's that?
Those aren't Hunter Henry. I love Kittle. I love Kittle's the only tight end I think in the NFL right now that I would consider taking in the 3rd round because Hunter Henry's coming off injury. Howard, I don't trust yet. He's very good. I don't trust Reed. Let's be honest. He's off the field more than he's on. And then with Gronk gone, who's left for these elite tight ends?
Well, see, that's what we're about to find out. But Darren Waller could easily be a guy that shines. Reed has had a really great camp from what they've been talking about. And if he stays healthy, Reed is a guy that can absolutely finish as a top 3 tight end. These things change so much every single year that what we have to, we feel we do these rankings. And then as soon as the season hits, all of this work that we have done just goes out the window. So we have to really, it's cliche, but expect the unexpected. There are going to be guys that we are not really considering right now that are after the first couple of weeks are going to be guys that we wish that we had seen the trend earlier on. There's some guys that I'm just staying away, and Kittle is a guy that I will have on 0 of my teams. Not because I don't like the talent. I absolutely love the talent. I just haven't seen anything between him and Jimmy, and I think that team's going to be bad.
Guys, what question are we at right now?
Nearly 89, the 10 versus 12 team QB tight end question.
Okay,
we went out of order a little bit.
Did we do Cohen Crazy yet?
Yes, we did.
Cohen Crazy.
All right, and then did we get to World's Greatest Detective yet?
That's the next one. He's actually in he's in my Pro-Am division.
Excellent.
Skip his question.
I added a couple more from the Facebook and from the other channels on SleeperApp, so refresh your Google Doc.
Got it.
And I want to give the phone number out. If you're listening, you want to call in and jump the line, ask questions immediately. 256-56 SLEEP. 256-567-5337. All right, that's all I got. Back to the show.
All right, next, going to my competition here, World's Greatest Detective. Before I get to this, I really do want to take a minute and say thank you guys for everyone who is participating in our Sleeper Wire Pro-Am this year. Should be a lot of fun. Our draft is happening at 7 a.m., slow draft starting on Friday. World's Greatest Detective, I'm not saying I'm going to throw you some bad information here, but here it goes. If I took the risk with Zeke or Gurley in the first round, and in the second round, Hill or Kelsey fall to him, who should he take? Standard PPR scoring. How much sooner do you draft a QB in leagues with a 6-point per passing touchdown? Dirty Jobs, why don't Max and I let you get a word in here?
Okay, that sounds actually kind of fun. I've been sitting back just listening to you two argue. I think if I'm risking Zeke or Gurley, I'm going to have to take Hill. He's got the highest upside. He's got the potential to finish the number one receiver out there. Kelsey will probably finish the number one tight end, but when you look at the difference of numbers, they're pretty vast as far as wide receiver tight end splits. So I've got to take Hill right here. And as far as how much sooner, I mean, I'm going to actually pull the trigger a little bit quicker on a 6-point touchdown quarterback, like an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, where he's fallen fairly late. I might pull him like 5th, 6th round, somewhere in there, if he's still available. I'm still not going to reach up 3rd round for like Patrick Mahomes or anything, though.
Yeah, and I agree with you with what you said in the beginning, and I'm really not going to move the quarterbacks up too much. What I will say is that it might have me adjust my quarterback rankings a little bit. So the quarterbacks might shift some within themselves. And so the guys that you're bumping up because they're a rushing quarterback, well, they're still getting the yards, but because they're not getting much of an advantage from rushing in touchdowns versus throwing them, they are going to shift down a little bit, and the guys that are throwing obviously are throwing a bunch of touchdown passes, they're going to kind of slide up. So that's what it'll really do. It won't make me draft quarterbacks a whole lot earlier, maybe a half round in some cases, but there's a lot of QB depth. Max, what do you think here?
I might go for Zeke personally. I wouldn't really touch Gurley at all with the knee issues and the fact that they're already talking about lightening his workload this year. If I'd take Kelsey over Hill, just because I don't know with Hill's off-field antics.
Yeah, I think Hill's going to fall out.
I hope he does. I love Hill. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've had him on my team every single year he's been in the NFL. Dude's amazing. That being said, if he stays, not healthy, but if he stays in off-the-field trouble, great. That being said, quarterbacks, 6-point, I wouldn't reach. I mean, I know that Lucas hates him, but you can get Matt Stafford, who averages about 20 or 25 touchdowns a year, in like the 14th round. And that's perfectly serviceable if you have a better team.
I appreciate Max. What he's really doing here is trying to help me in my pro-am by giving my competition kind of, some information that could end up making my team beat his. So, Max, I just want to take a minute and thank you for that.
All right, I feel like I'm on a show with Chris right now. We haven't agreed all night. All I'm saying is if in the 6th round there's someone I want more than Aaron Rodgers there, I'm not going to go for Aaron Rodgers. And if someone else wants him, he can take him. Because if I think there's better value than Aaron Rodgers in the 6th round, I'm going to grab the better value. That being said, reaching for a quarterback with the 6-point, I'd have to adjust my rankings. I don't really know where I'd put them. But there are serviceable quarterbacks on the lower tiers. There are. But there aren't necessarily.
You're not wrong.
Necessarily. Yeah, like from round 8 down, that's when the player pool talent really drops off. So you could be passing up on a potential stud wide receiver or a breakout wide receiver or running back to go for one of these guys. You're not high on Marlon Mack. Not a lot of people are. Not a lot of people even think about him. If you got Marlon Mack in the 6 and you didn't take Aaron Rodgers, the Colts are talking about making him a 3-down back. That could be massive for you.
Well, he can't catch, and Nyheim Hines is not going away. So they can say all they want, but that's just not going to happen. That's not how they use their backfield. And Marlon Mack isn't dropping to the 6th round in any draft that I've been in. He's going in the 3rd round, latest beginning of the 4th. But Marlon Mack is going in the 3rd round. Yeah, well, right. So I mean, if he were to happen to drop 2 rounds later, then sure. I mean, that's obviously we're talking a different universe almost here. If he does drop that, I'm not seeing it happen. That would be a time that he would be of great value. So you're right. If circumstances happen,
keep in mind, I obviously don't have the ADP in front of me right now. I just threw Marlon Mack out. If there was people there that I viewed were worth the round 6 pick, but there was also Aaron Rodgers, like Jarvis Landry, Robbie Anderson. If it's a PPR league, or it's standard scoring, right? Even Jarvis Landry, though, he's still awesome. Like, I'd be hard-pressed to pick.
Landry's a monster. Landry's a monster.
Landry's an absolute monster.
They're coming around to it.
Would you take Landry in the 6th and then pick up Baker or Russell Wilson? I don't know if Wilson would fall that far in like the 10th or 11th. Because I would.
Sure. And the thing is that there's usually a guy that's falling that late, right? There's some guys like Jared Goff. It's probably not going to be Baker because he has so much hype, but Goff or Cam or Carson Wentz or possibly Russ, but Russ is usually going before them. But the guys that seem to be falling that I see are Wentz, Cam, and Goff that put up big numbers. So those are guys you can usually get kind of 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round. That would be crazy value, and you would be just fine because honestly, Cam, assuming the shoulder's good, he could very easily finish the QB5. Wentz could finish as a top 3 quarterback, no trouble with all the weapons that he has. And, Goff has McVay and all the elite weapons there for the Rams that it's very easy that he could finish in the top 5 again. And Matt Ryan has been falling in some. It just depends on your draft. He's not a sexy pick, but he puts up numbers. Plenty of quarterbacks can be had. Max is right. You can wait and find value. There is a drop off after some of those guys. For me personally, those guys I'm really comfortable having. Once you get past those, I'm not feeling as great. But let's put a pin in that one and move on to Brid Jr. 01. Which 2 rounds would you consider the best for taking QBs in a 12-team PPR Superflex league?
All right, now we're talking. You're looking at round 6 and round 9. It's 12 team. Round 6, they're probably going to start drafting QBs in round 5 or 4 because I've been in some of these leagues. And sometimes people even take QBs in the first round because they're nuts. But I'd be comfortable with round 6 and round 10 because there's still going to be talent there that you're going to want to draft besides quarterbacks. Or if you lock down 3 solid players, it could be better than having 2 quarterbacks at flex. You could have like an elite running back, an elite wide receiver in your flex box because people are going to be reaching very hard for QBs.
Dirty Jobs, what do you think here?
I feel like, about the 5th, 6th round, somewhere in there. Superflex, you're really going to have to go with the flow, though. You don't want to be sitting there with 1 quarterback, especially like when you have a bye week coming up, things like that. So it's probably safer to have 2 quarterbacks in a super flex league. In my opinion, they're probably going to put up more points than most of your elite talent. So I'm thinking, 6th round. 6th round's probably about appropriate.
See, now what I'm going to say here, this isn't a cop-out whatsoever. This is you have to be flexible and you have to be malleable and you have to read your league. I wouldn't go into it thinking I have to draft a quarterback in this round. What you need to do is look and see at where that there's quarterback. So in the Scott Fish Bowl, Superflex League, expected people to go early based on some of the drafts that I was in for that. I was at the 12th pick and I got to the 3-4 turn and Aaron Rodgers was still there in a Superflex. Well, I didn't really want to take a quarterback that early because there were other players. But I have him as a top 3 quarterback. There's no way that in a super flex that I can't take him there because there'd only been 2 quarterbacks off the board. And I guarantee you in the next 24 picks that a bunch of quarterbacks were about to go. Took Rodgers. There were like 9 quarterbacks that went before it came back to me. Looking there, the value was great because it pushed down a ton of other players to me. And I had the option to take another quarterback there if I wanted. But instead, there was so much talent that was left, I doubled up on running backs because there were ones that I thought had no clue of getting there. And then after that, there were runs of other things. And only a few more quarterbacks came off. And then at the time it came back to me again, then I snagged that second QB because that's where the value fell. So what I would say is just look and see if it gets to your turn and there's a quarterback that's there that's a valuable pick. You just don't want to be the guy that's chasing runs. You want to be a guy that's either in the middle or hit the run before it happens so that you get better value out of your pick.
I couldn't agree more. That was because, like I said, I've been in this league. I've been in these type of leagues before. This is actually the first year I'm not in a super flex league. And you're going to watch the first round, 3 quarterbacks will be taken. The second round, 2 more. And players are going to fall to you that you would never expect to see that late in the round. But if there is an Aaron Rodgers sitting there, if there's an Andrew Luck sitting there, where their ADP, especially in a super flex league, is very high, you might want to grab them. But look at the talent around you. Be ready to switch it up.
That's right. Be malleable. Just be able to adjust on the fly. It's very key. Know your ADP, know where you're comfortable, and just be able to make that move when you're ready. Okay, on to Endco 87. Which top receiver, if any, would you pass on due to injuries? QB offense issues or other? Hilton, Allen, Brown, etc. And a half-point okay, so let's just do that question first here. Which top receiver, if any, would you pass on due to injuries or other issues on their offense, basically? Dirty Jobs?
You know, Antonio Brown's really starting to scare me. He's starting to sound crazy to me. I mean, I'm like, but trying to keep up with the hype and everything like that, you never know what's really going on, and he's still Antonio Brown. I really don't think that I'm really avoiding too many people as far as wide receivers go.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of with you on that. And I think that and some of this I feel like is pageantry. I feel like from what I've seen and watching Hard Knocks, his feet really look okay. I think he was kind of in pain, but they took off the dead skin. They cut it off. He had frostbite on his feet, but he still has his feet. Like, they're still working. He can still run. It was pain management, but it's not something he needed surgery. They are taking care of his feet. They're working on the helmet issue. I think a lot of this is just pageantry. I think AB is going to be fine, and he's still going to be AB. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the league. He's been the undisputed kind of guy for the last 4 years. If you can get him late in the second round or early third, I think that all that this really is just beautiful value and then putting on a show. Hilton worries me a little bit just because we don't know what's going on with Luck. I do like Hilton a lot. And if Luck's out there, I have no worries. But they're just very secretive with injuries that Luck deals with. And he has had this calf issue ongoing since March or April. And we didn't hear about it until July, as if it were a new thing. But he'd been dealing with it for a long, long time. They're being very secretive about it. And that's something to monitor very quick. Hilton is probably the guy that is scaring me the most because they don't have someone that I think will come in and fill in, quote unquote, just fine for Andrew Luck to keep Hilton's value up. Max, what do you think there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If you're going to be getting Antonio Brown in the third round, I mean, that's because you passed up on him. And with his off-field antics, yes. Hilton, 100% agree. It's all what happens with Andrew Luck. The dude missed an entire season because he's mystery pain. So I don't know what's going on with him. Allen, I'm willing to risk Allen every year. I know he's injury prone, but he's probably going to be a third round or second round pick. And he's just so phenomenal that I couldn't skip out on. Like, when he's on the field, I think if he played a full season and the Chargers offense is really clicking, he could put up Brown numbers.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that with Allen, he's really not that injury prone. He had one football injury, and the other thing was it was such a fluke incident that happened with him, and then he's actually been pretty healthy since. So I think that
he's got a spleen. He's gonna hurt his spleen, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't think there's really anything to be worried about there. The running backs, honestly, most of the running backs are the ones that I really have questions about. Most of the top wide receivers should just be locked and loaded, good to go. Those are the safe ones this year. He also asks, in a half-point PPR, should he take Kamara or CMC in the first round with the number 2 overall pick? I say flip a coin.
I like Christian McCaffrey.
I love Kamara. I like both of these players, but I absolutely love Kamara. The guy is an unreal talent. There's not another player in the NFL like him.
See, and that's how I
amazing.
feel about Christian McCaffrey, dude. I think he's just going to get used and abused again this year, so I like him a lot too. But I won't shake my head at Kamara either.
Yeah,
so let me be the deciding factor between you two, because you got one for Kamara, one for CMC. I think the major difference is who's their backup. Latavius Murray, in my opinion, is better than Mark Ingram. So he will spell Kamara.
No way.
You're out of your
Mark Ingram.
You're out of your mind if you don't think he is. You're out of your mind.
Ingram is significantly better than Murray.
No, he's not, dude.
Yes, he is.
When Murray touched the ball in Minnesota, he was fantastic. On the Raiders, he was fantastic. The dude doesn't get a chance, and I don't understand it. He's young. He's ready. He can catch and run. He's going to be their not the third down back. He's going to be their goal line back, just like Ingram. So Kamara, even though he is extremely talented, CMC is going to have more opportunities.
Here's how I know that Ingram is better than Latavius Murray. Because Mark Ingram went from a backup role to a starting role, and Latavius Murray went from a backup role to another backup role.
Yeah, because they drafted a franchise player in Minnesota, and that was when Murray started. He was fantastic, and like Jerick McKinnon was another one who was really good in Minnesota, and they really wanted nothing to do with him. He also got hurt a lot, but he was very good. Latavius Murray, I don't know what's wrong with him, but talent-wise, I think it's all there. I mean, 2017, he had almost a 900-yard season. Last year, only 140 touches, almost 600 yards. He's going to get the goal line work. He's going to steal touchdowns, and that's just the way I view it. So that being said, if I'm going to take number 2 overall or number 1 between those two, I want to go for the guy who's going to be the every down back, the guy who I don't have to worry about. If Murray starts a game in his first 4 carry, or if Kamara gets stuffed, they throw Murray in, breaks off a 10-yard run. They go again. He breaks off a 10-yard run, which he can do.
It doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. Latavius Murray is nothing when talking about Kamara's usage. Like, literally doesn't matter. And Kamara is so effective on the usage that he gets.
Who's spelling Christian McCaffrey? Who's spelling McCaffrey?
It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. Which team is better?
100% does.
Which offense is better?
Depends on what through the air.
No, which offense is better? The Panthers or the Saints?
The Saints. So when the Saints are up, are you going to keep handing the ball to your star, or just give it to Murray?
That right there is the best point that you've made, is that if the Saints get up, which that is something they very much can do, but the chances are that by the time that they get up, Kamara's already going to have had a huge workload, which is what happened last season.
But that's going to happen for Christian McCaffrey too. They trust him even more this year. He's coming back bigger and stronger. He was an 1,100 rush yard running back last year. I just don't see, like, that's the thing. We're arguing number 1 and number 2. Like that's what everyone thinks. Number 1, I agree. Number 1, number 2. I just think Christian McCaffrey has nothing behind him. He is it. Latavius Murray should have been a starter somewhere. Will he start over Kamara? Obviously not. But he is a talented dude, and they are not afraid to give another running back the ball. Kamara is involved so much, but I just think you're wrong in this one.
There's a lot of teams that need running backs, and if Latavius Murray should have been a starter, teams would have picked him up and they would have noticed that. And that's
not true. Look at Justin Forsett for the Ravens. When he was a starter there, he was fantastic. He was old, but he was fantastic for a season and a half. But like I said, he was very old at the time. There are some players who just sit in the back because they keep getting put behind great running backs.
Or because they're just not that fine. Or they're just mediocre. They're just okay NFL running backs, and that's what it is. If Latavius Murray was that good, he would be the starter on a team. He's perfect for what the Saints need him for. You're talking about someone that's getting stronger. Kamara has been this dude is a beast. He has the ability to handle a bigger workload. We saw it for the first 4 games of last season. He's in his 3rd year now. He is going to be fine handling 18 to 20 touches a game. he is
Yeah,
going to be
I
a
just think
monster,
Kamara-
and that's
I think
all
he'll
he
get-
needs to be productive.
Which is fine, but all I'm saying is you have a backup running back in Latavius Murray, who the 1 year he started was over 1,000 yards, averaged 4 yards per carry. His worst year was 3.9 yards per carry on 216 attempts. The guy puts in work every time he touches the ball. They're gonna use him, so he's
Sure.
going to be used.
That's fine.
Who's going to
They can
be
use him,
behind Christian
but
McCaffrey?
he's not going to prevent Kamara from getting his. And so
I
Kamara is
didn't
going
say
to be
Kamara
more
wouldn't. I
productive.
just think-
Kamara is going to be more productive on his touches. CMC is going to get more touches, but because Kamara is on the better offense, I think that the total production that he is going to have is going to end up having him slightly higher than CMC, and that's because of being on the better offense. But that's why we're having this debate right now between these two, is because a lot of people are staring down this exact question that we're looking at. Who do I choose? Saquon went off the board. I have Kamara and CMC there. There's really not a wrong decision. Both of these guys are absolute studs. If Cam is on the field, CMC is going to have a huge year. Kamara is going to have a big year regardless, assuming health for both of these guys. I think we should move on to the next one. We've kind of beat this horse till it was dead. Anthony B14. Does anyone like Devonta Freeman this year? And what round should I draft him? I do like him. I say 3rd round. Dirty Jobs.
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say right there. I said I like him, and I want him in round 3 because that's about perfect value. He's not going anywhere. I mean, the guy does have some injury concerns for sure, but 3rd round, I'm willing to risk it.
The Falcons play a ton of games in domes every single year. I think this year they have 1, maybe 2 more games than usual in a dome. So that's a huge boost for a player like Devonta Freeman, who's kind of a Kamara-esque player behind a great O-line with a team that should put up a ton of points. I really expect Devonta Freeman to have a really solid year, and he's a pretty sneaky pick to target in the 3rd round. Max, anything else to add to that?
No, I totally agree with that.
We'll give Max this next one here. Clockwork says, who wins this trade and why? Todd Gurley and Hilton, or Hopkins and Cook?
Hopkins and Cook every single time.
Dirty Jobs?
Hilton.
By a bajillion. Like, to me, that's not even close. I want Hopkins and Cook all day.
Yeah,
Yep.
we got the three-peat here. T.Y. is dealing with a quarterback that we don't know if he's going to be there game 1 or game 4. And Todd Gurley, I'm fairly optimistic. He's produced for a lot of people when people always push him down the board. But I think you got to go Hopkins and Cook here. Ron Meck says, how long is Big Dick Nick's longest play last season? I assume he's talking about Nick Foles.
And he's saying longest play this season. I'm saying.
Oh, how long will? Okay. That's who he's. Oh, he's talking about Nick Chubb, right?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Steve, do you want to fill in here? I think
I
it's
don't know.
I think it's Nick Chubb, and we'll say he hits an 80-yard run. We'll say it's an 80-yard
What
run.
if it's
No, that's
What if it's Nick Foles? What if Nick
Nick
Foles is the big dick Nick?
that is Nick
That is
Foles
Nick Foles. Yeah.
What's his
I think it
longest
is Nick
play?
Foles.
in Philly.
Well, what do we think here? Is he going to throw a 70-yard strike?
No.
Yeah, I could see it.
I don't like Nick Foles. I've said it before. I say it again. The guy is clutch when he needs to be, but when he doesn't need to be, he's not so clutch.
Okay. Moving on to this next one here. Eggy G says, who has the better years, Zeke, Melvin Gordon, or Mike Davis? So that's funny. That's funny.
That's a funny one.
I think Gordon could end up sitting out a significant amount of time this year because he's kind of backed himself into a corner. He can come back with his tail between his legs, but he really has no leverage. That team will be fine without him. The Cowboys actually kind of need Zeke, right? I mean, they have a good team without him, but they have a pretty near and on great team with him. So I'm going to go ahead and say Zeke, because that boy's coming back and he's going to play.
Yep, Zeke 100%.
Mike probably wants Mike, right?
I mean, it's so close because Zeke is worrying me still, but I agree. I think Zeke plays this year.
Okay, I like it. I like the vote of confidence. Now, if y'all just want to make sure that happens, I'd appreciate it. But he is back in the States, though. Some lady ended up taking a picture with him, and she was sitting next to him on a plane, and he was trying to be incognito with his shades on and his hat and his hoodie pulled down over. But it was Zeke. He's back. He's getting ready. He's going to be there for week 1. Farmhole says draft strategy. Running backs first half of the draft, wide receivers second for round 1. Okay. Running backs first half of draft, wide receivers second half for round 1 strategy. Why does this just not make sense to me? Anyone else?
It doesn't make much sense to me either. So, yes.
I think what he's saying is first round, everyone's going running back first 4 or 5 picks, and then wide receivers. Like,
okay.
I think what he's getting at is he wants to confirm that it's, CMC, Kamara, DJ, Zeke, maybe Lev somewhere in there for some people. Then Hopkins, Adams. Some people have OBJ in the first round. I mean, he's kind of talking about tiers. Like, I think the question is there any wide receivers in the second half of the first round that you would pick?
Yeah, so I mean Hopkins is my obvious my obvious guy that if he's there, I'm taking him. I really like OBJ. I really like Baker. I really like what's going on that team. So OBJ is my number 3, but I have Hopkins, Adams, and then OBJ personally. So, but OBJ you can really get at the back end of and really into the second round. So, but Hopkins is a guy that I would look to take early if you absolutely had to take a wide receiver or just wanted to. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean,
are there any other wide receivers?
I like Michael Thomas too, like late.
Oh, true.
Well, you got Julio, obviously. We can't forget Julio here.
Every year, dude, I love Julio Jones, and if you don't know that, you don't know me.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but Julio Jones, Matt Ryan is so inconsistent. Like Julio Jones will have 5 touchdowns, infinity yards week 3, and then he'll get 4 targets for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, he tore it up last year.
I have Julio Jones in one of my leagues. I always need him on my team. For the longest time, Josh Gordon is my favorite wide receiver, but Julio Jones was my favorite wide receiver who actually played. That being said, there aren't many wide receivers to reach for, like later half of the first. But I mean, those 3 are the ones, or 4 rather, because OBJ. But I'd agree with.
Tyreek Hill is there, and he's obviously a guy that you have to consider. You saw what every time he's electric. Every time he gets the ball, he could take it to the house. His issue is he sees significantly less targets. And maybe they go up slightly. If you could tell me he was going to get the same targets or maybe up a little bit more, which he has to, right? He only had 134 last year. He has to see more than that. If he does, he really has to be in that conversation in the top 3, though. Let's move on to the next one here. The Wolf picking at the turn in a 10-man league. Would you go RBRB like Connor Chubb Cook? Or go running back wide receiver at the 3-4, who would you be targeting? Most drafts, I end up with Connor Chubb and then Diggs Woods. So, Max, why don't you go ahead here? I bet you're going to say running back.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if I'd take. Because I like Chubb. I do. I like the Browns' offense, but I think it's going to be a very air-it-out offense this year. Yeah. So that's kind of why I'm not that high on Chubb, because they have an elite wide receiving core. That being said, I like Connor. I like Cook if he can stay healthy. So running back's good, but we all know the first 3 picks are going to be running backs, possibly the first 4 picks. So if there is, if Hopkins falls to you, which I know sounds crazy, but if it happens, if Julio, This is a tough one because if the elite talent falls for you at wide receiver, I'd probably jump on the elite talent. Especially if at the 3-4 you might be doing a wraparound because you can get Marlon Mack. I know he's not loved by everyone, but right now he is a starter. You might be able to get Cook there too because people could have cold feet on him because he gets hurt a lot. Todd Gurley could be there because he's still nursing that injury. Melvin Gordon could be in the 4th because people are afraid he's not even going to play.
Melvin could be there.
Ending up with Connor and Cook, I'd be okay with that. Or Connor and Chubb, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I might look at, honestly, I'd probably take only one running back there because the wide receiver you're going to have elite wide receivers there and they're going to fall off. The elite ones are going to be gone. The wide receivers that you're looking at, like you said, when it gets to the 3-4 turn and a 10-man, the guys that could potentially be there are Hilton, Cooper, Diggs, Edelman, Cooks, and those are really good guys. But in a 10-man, everyone's going to have elite guys. So if all of these other elite wide receivers are taken by then, I'm not going to be very happy because every team that you come up against are going to have better wide receivers than you, I think. And that's just going to be the way it's going to work. So I would want one wide receiver there. And in a 10-man, I might even consider 2 wide receivers because starting a draft with OBJ and Devontae Adams or Julio Jones, a combination of some of those guys, or Tyreek Hill, I would really be okay with. But
at the same time, 3-4 turn, you could pull off a Thielen Cooper.
That would be absurd.
Keenan Allen.
The Thielen would be absurd there. I think at the 3-4 turn, the running backs that I would be very excited to see fall there that potentially would be Fournette, Freeman, David Montgomery, and Chris Carson. I really like all of those guys. They are.
I'm just saying, like, if you want to take the elite running back or the higher upper echelon running backs you feel comfortable with, i.e. Connor or Cook, the wide receivers that could be at the 3-4 turn, like Thielen, yeah, it's going to be a stretch if he's there. Cooper could definitely be there. Keenan Allen, people are very nervous about him. And we have to remember, this isn't a podcasters league. This is a friends and family league. So a friends and family league, the guy like, I had Keenan Allen last year, he burned me. Or, you know what I mean? I had so-and-so last year, they burned me because they keep getting hurt. Well, then that guy's there. So,
yeah.
Yep. It's tough. I'd probably go running backs, but, that's me.
I'd probably end up going 1-1. I have to be honest. I'd probably take my favorite running back and my favorite wide receiver that were there. Dirty, what would you do here?
Same thing. It's just always about the opportunity and what the situation is. And I always go by things like, so I have my list that I sit there with. And let's say my next guy that's coming up, I know he's not going to make it around to me on the next one. I'll reach early for him because I want this in particular guy. So, to me, it just varies by the strategy. If this guy goes, then I change it to this and things like that. I just try to go by the flow of each in particular draft because every draft is, a little bit different from the others, but you can keep it pretty consistent for yourself.
Yep, I 100% agree. Moving on to our next question here, Garrett W. 2000. He says, need help trading away Antonio Brown and Tevin Coleman for Julio Jones. Wide receivers after the trade, Juju and Julio and Josh Gordon. Running backs after the trade. Okay, let's read through this one more time. Need help trading away Antonio Brown and Tevin Coleman for Julio. Wide receivers after that trade, assuming the trade were made, would be Juju and Julio with Josh Gordon. So running backs would be Devontae Freeman, Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, Miles Sanders, Kalen Ballage, Singletary, Justin Jackson. Should you do it? So assuming AB and Tevin Coleman for Julio, and then he gives us the list of these other running backs. So basically, how much better do we think Julio is than Antonio Brown? I think I would do this trade.
I would too. Josh Gordon, once he gets up and running, if he stops smoking weed, he'll be fine. Juju is a monster. And honestly, Chris Carson, I love. Freeman should be fine. And Miles Sanders, he could be the premier back for the Eagles. So you could be good.
Yeah. I just think that I don't really see Tevin Coleman having any kind of a monster year. I think we know what he has. He has fairly limited upside, and all you're really doing is getting rid of a headache by upgrading your wide receiver and then getting rid of your headache trying to predict which of these kind of like middle running backs you would use, I guess, as your flex. So, yeah, I think we all agree. Dirty Jobs, do you concur here, or do you have some insight for us?
No, I concur. That's solid.
Megalodon 1207 said, "Would you take a chance and trade for Zeke?" Well, sure, if it's the right price, if you're getting him at a discount, absolutely.
Yeah, this question needed a lot more.
Little more. If you could email us, Megalodon, we'll follow up with you on Sleeper. KV
Let's
Buckeye.
take a stab real quick.
Sure.
Would you trade Chubb? Would you trade Chubb for Zeke?
Yes. Yep, I would. Zeke's a league winner. So if I can trade, basically what you're doing is trading away your late second for someone's early first, because you already know my stance on where I would take Zeke in a draft. So sure, I'm going to trade. I would do that. Absolutely.
I've just really fallen in the type that Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon are in cahoots. And so I'm kind of worried about both of them.
Yeah, they were both at SportsCon, which both of you happened to not go to this year. Maybe we'll get you there next year, but both of them were at SportsCon.
I'll be there next year.
And
if that happens, we don't show up and these guys go on strike. What did you guys do to them?
I don't know, but it was seriously though. Melvin Gordon shows up, and then he has this holdout. Next thing you know, Zeke's at SportsCon, and while at SportsCon, the news broke that Zeke was talking about holding out too, which we all thought was a joke because he has 2 years left on his rookie contract. But
this might be my fault. I did promise autographs. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh gosh, it is your fault. For anyone who wants to call in, by the way, you can call in at 256-56-SLEEP. That's 256-567-5337. If you have a question you want to hear answered live, you can go ahead and call in. So where did we just leave off? We're here on KV Buckeye 93. Galladay or Mike Williams in a half-point PPR? This is a good question. Max, who would you go? Galladay or Mike Williams?
Oh, I'm gonna go Galladay.
We know you love Stafford.
That's tough.
We know you love Stafford.
No, it's not even a Stafford thing. It's if Hunter and Allen are healthy.
Yep.
I just see that Mike Williams will lose targets. Galladay, it's him and Marvin Jones. So that's it.
See,
like he's the number two.
I think we're kind of thinking along the same lines here. The way that I said this to myself in my head is that whether you see Galladay as the 1A or the 1B for that team, he's still he still could potentially end up being the number one wide. There's a clear path for him to be the number one wide receiver on his team than there is for Mike Williams to be the number one on his team. So I think I would give the edge to Galladay as well. Dirty, who are you leaning here?
I just can't do anything Detroit. Like this year, I don't know what it is about Detroit that really just has me on. Like, I just don't want anything to do with that whole entire team. So it's not Galladay for me. I can't do Galladay right there. I think it's Mike Williams because I think with Tyrell Williams out of there now, I think he's going to be that good, solid wide receiver too. He's a good complement to Keenan Allen. I really like Mike Williams a lot this year on top of my anti-Detroit feel.
Okay, so you have 2 for Galladay and 1 for Mike Willie. Brady's a bitch said drop Kiki QT for Tony Pollard. Well, if you want to, it just depends on what you need, right? So you want the upside of Pollard on the off chance that Zeke doesn't come back, then sure. Kiki seems to have trouble staying on the field, and I'm not sure what his role is really going to be week in and week out with Duke Johnson there once he's fully healthy. That really hurts Kiki. So sure, go ahead and take the upside on Pollard. You guys disagree, or are we good to go to the next question?
Moving on.
I do disagree. I think I'd rather not Pollard. I think I don't know. You just want to disagree with Max and I. I just really think Kuti has got so much talent, and when Deshaun Watson and him were hitting up together, man, I really like that. So I want to see more of that, and I hope I see more of that. I really just kind of on the Kiki QT hype train still from last year.
I know, but there's just so many mouths to feed once Duke Johnson is back and healthy, and assuming Will Fuller and Hopkins are as well. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot, Dirty.
I get it. I just, like I said, I just can't get on board with it. I like it too much. I think it's going to be good.
Okay, and just want to remind people that you can send email questions to sleeperwire.com/advice. You can get your questions answered by emailing them to that address. From the Facebook group, we have Aaron Dunn. He wants to know if Bruce Anderson is still a stash. Who is the handcuff to Devonta Freeman, Ito, or Hill? Bruce Anderson, he was kind of a hot commodity as a stash, and he may be more of a stash now. Ronald Jones hyperextended his knee the other day in their second preseason game last Friday. I don't know if anyone else saw that photo. It didn't look great. He has swelling around the knee. Not sure how serious that's going to be, but for right this second, until we know more about Ronald Jones, I would say that Bruce Anderson is still a stash. The handcuff to Freeman, Dirty. Do you have a strong inclination either way here for Ito or Hill?
Do you know exactly how excited I am that I'm starting to see Brian Hill involved in fantasy football questions? He's one of my favorite running backs from none other than Wyoming. So, yeah, I think it's going to be Brian Hill. I think he's a bad dude. And I don't know. He's got good cuts, and I think he's better than Ito Smith.
Max? Do you disagree with Dirty?
I don't. Look, the issue is I don't disagree, but I like Ito Smith. It's a tough call for me. I don't know Brian Hill enough, but the way Dirty Jobs is super excited about him, I'm gonna have to lean Hill.
Yes.
See, and I just don't think Ito's that talented. So even if Devonta Freeman were to get hurt and something happened to him, I don't really want Ito. Like, even with that O-line, like, he's just not a guy you're excited to put into your lineup. So I would hope that it's Hill because he seemed to be a little bit more electric to me.
I think Ito's a safer, if that makes sense.
Safe to get you 4
just kind of know what you're gonna get. Yeah, but I'm saying as an NFL GM, you know what Ito's gonna give you. Hill's a boomer bust. That being said, in fantasy, I take the boomer bust.
There you go. MKA Do. I actually have luck for $40 on my Dynasty League. Keep or drop? I would really. I assume it's a $200 budget. I don't know. That seems heavy to me.
That seems heavy, but for luck, I think I still hold on to it. If we're discussing 200, if we're discussing 100, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's rough because Luck is always hurt, but when he plays, especially in fantasy, he's quite arguably like the best quarterback to have. It depends on your budget. If you're over 150, keep. If you're under 150, drop.
Yeah, I'm wrestling with this one. I'd probably drop if it were me, but I always go a lot cheaper on quarterbacks and spend my money elsewhere.
Who do you think, like, so it's Keeper League Dynasty, so you can keep Luck for technically ever, which is cool. So the younger quarterbacks are going to be gone, but who's going to be left?
Yeah.
Maybe Rivers, maybe, I don't know. It really depends on like what's left in your league. If you have a guy that you're okay filling in the interim, then keep. But at the same time, like I said, if it's under $150, you're spending half or almost half of your budget.
Yeah, we're also kind of shooting in the dark here. We don't know how many teams and what the structure is. We don't know if it's super flex or 10, 12, 14-man league. So we need a little bit more to give you a super accurate answer on that. Dave Moody says, I'm befuddled. I already have Edelman, half-point PPR, 2 QB, redraft. Gordon or Will Fuller? It's got to be Gordon, right?
Without a doubt, Will Fuller can't stay healthy to save his life. He's even saying that this season I need to play a full 16 games to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah,
Josh Gordon.
Gordon's probably saying he needs to prove he can stay on the field for 16 games too, to be fair.
But if you look at production-wise, when Gordon's on the field, he is a better receiver than Fuller. And as long as Gordon doesn't do drugs, and if that's the thing, if Will Fuller stays healthy, if Gordon stays clean, Gordon will be the better wide receiver. That being said,
no
what's
one's
more likely to happen? Gordon?
Yeah, and that's what we're weighing out here. I don't think anyone disputes that they're really two different classes of wide receiver. Josh Gordon is significantly
I'd go
better.
Gordon.
So
I'd go Gordon. He's on the Pats. I think Bill Belichick will be personally giving him drug tests every 3 days, because there's a reason they didn't cut him. So I'd stick with Gordon, even with Edelman. Edelman will get all the short down work. Gordon will catch a bomb or two a game for a touchdown. I'd be fine with that.
I think the NFL also, well, we'll get into that on another segment. Richard Davis wants to know, if you had to pick 2 running backs between Fournette, Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, Derrick Henry, who would you pick? This is Fournette and Chris Carson for me. Dirty jobs?
I hate saying Fournette, but Fournette and Carson for me too.
Mad Max?
Fournette's got a quarterback this year. It's Fournette and Carson.
Hey, all right. It must be those two then. He also wants to know Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham, or Greg Olsen.
Give me Jimmy Graham.
I want Jordan Reed.
I want Greg Olsen.
Ankle.
How funny is
He
that?
broke his ankle. And Jimmy Graham wins.
Well, Jimmy Graham already hurt himself. Greg Olsen's just a proven commodity. Like Reed's always hurt.
Who also hurts himself every year.
Last year, not every year. And if he misses, time, it's like
the last
like
2 years, and he has an injury that is very easy to re-injure in his foot.
Then if you're gonna take Olsen off the table because of injuries and age, fine. I'm going Jimmy Graham over Reed.
That's fine. I actually kind of like all of these guys, to be honest. Funny enough. Miles Sanders or David Montgomery. I mean, this isn't even close. It's David Montgomery. The guy is an absolute monster, and I think that we'll be drafting him no later than mid-second round next year.
All right. Well, we disagree.
Ooh, okay. He must be a Bears hater.
I'm not a Bears hater. I just
Cohen lover.
Like Sanders. I do love Cohen, dude. He's talented. He's extremely good.
He is, but he hit his ceiling last year.
But at the same time, he was talented enough for them to get rid of Howard, who everyone thought was going to be their future.
You're going to come apologize to me in a couple weeks when you see David Montgomery.
Hey, honestly, maybe I will. I like Miles Sanders. This is the most excited I've seen the Eagles be about any running back. And I remember my buddy who was so upset when Ajayi didn't re-sign that when they got Sanders, he was beside himself happy because the kid shows a lot of promise and the Eagles look like they're ready to work with him.
Okay. Well, let me refresh here and see if we had anything else added in. And it looks like that's all of our questions for today. Thank you all for tuning in to the Sleeper Wire Mailsack. We'll be live again every Wednesday starting at 8 p.m. Eastern with open phone lines to answer your questions live. We love doing this. We're the most interactive show. You can find us at the Sleeper app. We have our own channel, the Sleeper Wire channel. Facebook groups, search Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football Club. You can find us on Twitter at Sleeper Wire Show. You can find me, Lucas, at Sleeper Wire LBB on both Sleeper and Twitter. Max, where can we find you?
I'm on SleeperBot, at MaxSW. I'm still Twitterless.
He's Twitterless, guys. In 2019, in the age of fantasy football, it's okay. It took me a little while to get on Twitter too, but I do say Twitter is where it's at. Dirty Jobs, where can we find you, bud?
You can find me at Dirty Jobs on the Sleeper app, and then you can find me at Dirty Jobs 21 on the Twitter. You can pretty much find me at Dirty Jobs anywhere.
All right, we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Excellent. Welcome back, Mailsack.